Greetings. I'm Dr. Pearl John and welcome to the Other 167. We continue our series on tough questions and tough answers. And today we focus on the question, when bad things happen, is God still good? When bad things happen, is God still good? We've all been there, watching someone we love suffer or enduring a personal tragedy and wondering, why would a good God allow this? If God is all powerful and all loving, why does He let bad things happen to good people? This is one of the toughest questions anyone can face, and it's not new. The Bible addresses it head on, providing deep insights into the nature of suffering and goodness of God, and the hope that we can cling on to even when life feels unfair. I'd like us to focus on three key themes. The first one, the world is broken, but God is still good. We need to understand that we live in a world that is broken by sin. When Adam and Eve disobeyed God, sin entered the world, and when it came, suffering, pain, and death came along with it. The world is not how God originally created it to be. In Romans chapter 8 and verse 22, Paul describes this reality. We know that the whole creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present time. All of creation is groaning under the weight of sin. This brokenness means that bad things happen, not because God is not good, but because humanity chose rebellion over God's perfect design. Disease and disasters and injustice exist as consequences of living in a fallen world. But here's the crucial point. While the world is broken, God's goodness remains unchanged. God is not the source of evil or suffering. His heart is deeply grieved by suffering. James 1:17 reminds us, every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly, who does not change like shifting shadows. God is the source of every good thing. Even in a world filled with pain, His goodness shines through, offering us comfort, hope, and assurance that this brokenness will not last forever. God's goodness is eternal even when life isn't fair. The second is God can use bad things for greater good. While suffering is a result of living in a fallen world, the Bible teaches us that God can redeem even the worst circumstances for good. One of the most powerful examples of this is found in Romans chapter 8 and verse 28, when Paul writes, in all things, God works for the good of those who love, who have been called according to His purpose. Notice that Paul doesn't say all things are good. Far from it. Some things in life are undeniably bad. But what this verse promises is that God can bring good out of the worst circumstance or situation. This doesn't mean that we'll always see or understand how He is working. Sometimes the good God is bringing about won't be clear until much later, or even until eternity. But we can trust that He is always at work, weaving even our pain into His greater plan. One of the clearest examples of this is the story of Joseph. After being put into severe challenges in Egypt, Joseph turns around and reminds his brethren that what they intended to harm was something that was turned to good. Recently I had the privilege of being with one of my friends who was going through a real tough time, and she was in the verge of giving up. It was a most painful experience, and she questioned, why God? Why God? And you know what? I reminded her that it is because God wants to turn that very evil situation into something that is so very good. And let me remind you, dearly beloved, that when you go through that difficult situation, when you feel like giving up on God, just hold on, because He is not done with you yet. Thirdly, the ultimate answer to suffering is with Jesus. The greatest comfort that we derive in the midst of those very, very compelling situations is that Jesus went through those suffering Himself. He took upon the sin and the suffering and the shame of this entire world because He loved us. And He demonstrated that that suffering is one that can be easily traded with His love that can completely transform us. Jesus faced rejection and betrayal and agony in the cross. He knows that it is tough to suffer, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. And when you were to ask, where is God when I'm hurting? The answer is, He is right there in the midst of it with you. The wonderful thing is that the suffering does not end. Your life continues on as Jesus turns that suffering into something beautiful and wonderful for you over and over again. The promise that we can hold on to is that God is preparing a future where suffering will be no more. His goodness will reign forever. And until that day, we can trust that Jesus walks with us through every valley and that His love will never, ever fail. So why do bad things happen to good people? The answer isn't simple, but here's what we know. We live in a broken world, but God is still good. He can take even the worst situations and use them for His greater purpose. And through Jesus, we have the ultimate hope that one day all suffering will end. So next time when you ask yourself, where is God in this? Remember that He is right there offering comfort, redemption, and promise of a future where pain will be no more. This is Pearl John signing off the Other 167. Thank you for watching the Other 167. We continue our series on tough questions and tough answers next week. Do join in.